Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming tonight. I would like to start tonight by sharing my personal story. My name is Kia Mugwaneza. I came in this country in 2000 as a student, and I had a scholarship to attend La Roche College in North Hills. I was there from 2000 to 2004, and I received a bachelor's degree in computer information systems and business administration. When I was done with school, as every graduate student does, I started looking for work. I started looking for a job, but by the time I was a junior, I knew that I wanted to work with refugees and immigrants, even though my school work was not related to that field. So what I did, I was applying for jobs, but the place that I didn't think of to apply for was Pittsburgh. I didn't even think in my mind that there was programs in Pittsburgh that work with refugees and immigrants. So I applied at, my very first job application I applied was with the International Rescue Committee in New York. And I keep calling them, I keep emailing them, and by the time I finished school, a few months later, I got a call from our volunteer program from La Roche College that there's an organization that's looking for someone who speaks Swahili who can work with refugees, Somali refugees who are coming at that time. So that's how I started working at Catholic Charities. I started as a volunteer, then I became a case manager, then I became a supervisor, and one of the people who was my supervisor, Amanda Lychek, is here today. She was my director there. So my journey as an immigrant, at time, it was very stressful, it was very hard, and I was legal, okay? So I can just imagine how it is for other people. Even for me, it was very stressful. So that time, I had to apply for an employment authorization card. I was only allowed to work for 1 year. Then from there, I had to renew a visa for employment. For every 3 years, I had to renew a visa for employment. But I met people, I met organizations since I came here that believed in me, that trusted me, that went out of their way just to help me to stay here and feel more welcome. Last month, February 11th, a very important date that I'll never forget, I became a US citizen. Thank you. So my journey after that, when my immigration status was kind of, more stable, I got a job with Northern area where I went as a job developer. Then the same year, that was in 2011, I was hired there as a program director for their resettlement agency. So I've been working for Northern area as a program director since 2011 to this day, and I work for refugee and immigrants. Now, I think it's very important for me to mention that I feel at home in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has been my home. I came here. I only had 1 year of college education from Rwanda. So my career, I started here. My education is here. I met my wife, she's from Uzbekistan, and we have 2 boys, 4 and 1 year old. My whole life, the most important steps in my life are here in Pittsburgh. I feel at home, and I hope we can help to make other people, immigrants of any kind, feel more welcome and feel at home in Pittsburgh. Thank you.
Thank you, Kier. And Kier's story is precisely why we're here tonight. So he had the advantage of, my phone is ringing. So he had the advantage of having a network that he could plug into, of having contacts that were supportive, of having a welcoming experience. But we know that that's not the reality for all immigrants that come to our city, and we need to change that. My name is Betty Cruz. I'm the manager of special initiatives in the mayor's office, and I'd like to welcome you all. Thank you so much for coming out to hear what we've been up to. I'd like to thank the Children's Museum for this beautiful space. that we're able to enjoy tonight. And before we get going, I'd actually like to bring up a special guest, Councilman OConnor, if you can come up and say a couple words.
Thank you, Betty. Thanks for the invitation. I'm a little under the weather, which actually people like when politicians are under the weather because we don't talk very long. But I mean, the story you just heard is inspiring because we are a city that wants to welcome everybody. And there's a number of opportunities out there as we continue to grow and build our city for everyone. And I think I just filled out the yellow form as well, but we want everybody in this room and everybody that sees this video at home to be the eyes and ears of the city. As we do new initiatives like this to get people involved, we want as much detailed information about your neighborhood as possible because we want you to help shape the next Pittsburgh. And I can just speak for my own district. I probably have the most diverse neighborhood or diverse district in the city. I go from Squirrel Hill, which is very wealthy and a great business district, to Greenfield, which is having a lot more young people move in and building their business district, out to Lincoln Place, which is a blue-collar part of the city, which has no business district, but it has a lot of residents. And then we start in Hazelwood. Hazelwood is going to be a site that we are developing. The total project in Hazelwood at the LTV site is going to be $1 billion. That's going to create a lot of jobs and a lot of opportunities for a number of people to move into our city, but we have to educate everybody to those opportunities. And that's why it's great that we have such a diverse room here so that you can tell people the opportunities that we have in our city so we can continue to grow. So I just want to thank you. Betty has been with us for almost 2 years now.
Just over a year.
Just over a year. Goes fast.
I know,
Feels like she's been here for a while. But these initiatives are very important. So I want to thank everybody for taking the first step in coming here, but also thank you for the future involvement that you're going to have in this initiative and a number of initiatives that we're going to have follow come from the mayor's office. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman. And I really love that one of the many points that he underscored was the assets that our immigrants bring. So thank you so much for sharing that. I'd like to take a moment to introduce the rest of the Advisory Council who's here tonight, standing next to me.
Good evening. My name is Anna Maria Ellis, and I am a partner with the immigration firm of Cohen and Grigsby.
Hello, I am Brent Rondon. I am from Peru, South America, and I live here for 20 years now. I work at Duquesne University Small Business Development Center. I run a global business program helping Pittsburgh manufacturers to find customers overseas.
And you met Kier earlier. If I could have any other Advisory Council members who are here, please stand. Thank you. Yes, if we could give them a round of applause. So they've been working tirelessly to get us to where we are today. And I'd like to invite Kier back up to say a few more words on why we're here tonight.
Okay, so tonight what we're gonna do, we want to share with you what Welcoming Pittsburgh is, what we've been doing. We've been meeting for the last several months, and we just want to share with you what we've been doing so far. And the goal for these meetings, we already had a couple of them, is to reach out to as many people as possible we can to get their feedback. And tonight, part of the meeting and part of what you're gonna do at the end of this presentation, Pat will show you we have a desk and they have information, and we'll need to get your feedback, and they'll explain to you the activities, what's involved. But it's important that we hear from everybody.
So this process, one of the guiding mantras, if you will, that the mayor has been talking passionately about and that has really been guiding each of the advisory council meetings that have been taking place over the last few months is the concept of building a more livable city for all of our residents. So if we are successful, which we will be, we're talking about building the most livable city for all, and that includes all of our immigrants in our community. So whether we are talking about high-skilled, whether we're talking about students who come here and aren't able to stay and have to take their talents elsewhere, whether we're talking about refugees, whether we're talking about undocumented, we're talking about all immigrants and building a more welcoming experience for them. And if we're successful, that means that it's a more welcoming experience for all of our residents. Because if we're doing this process right, we're gonna have an authentic conversation, and we're gonna recognize that we have an African-American community that hasn't always felt so welcome. So if we're successful, that means the entire community is successful along the way. Now this process started for us, and I know I see some familiar faces, so some of you were there a year ago, almost a year ago, when we kicked everything off, May of last year with the mayor. Over 100 folks were in attendance. We opened up the process right then to select our advisory council. We had over 100 folks from the community raise their hand and say, yes, sign me up. And we've been working closely with the advisory council ever since to on their primary charge, which is to develop a roadmap, to develop a set of recommendations that are going to be put forth in front of the mayor sometime in April of this month, get his thumbs up, and then be finalized and publicly launched in May, and then the work begins. That's why those pledge forms are on your desk, or on your chairs, I should say. So the roadmap, we're also looking at prioritizing it, right? So if everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. So we need to know what our timelines are. You're gonna hear from the council on some of these specific areas that we've been looking at and some specific strategies that we've been looking at. Again, we're not gonna be successful until we get your input on what's actually resonating and what's making sense. And each of these priorities are going to have timelines associated with them. So whether we're talking about 6 months or whether we're looking further down the road.
So now, this is something that visual to help you understand where we are. And like Betty said, we've been meeting for several months, and this is the process. We are right there on number 2, where it say outreach and listening. That's why you're here today. So what we've done in general is just creating a framework, as an advisory council. But we cannot move forward without the input of the community member here in Pittsburgh. So that's where we're gonna need your help with the survey and the notes that you're gonna provide there, and you'll hear more details.
So as Keir said, and to stress again what Betty said, this is a starting point. We are here today to get your input. I know you see us up here talking to you, but really what is going to bring value to this meeting today is the input that you are going to give to us. So with that in mind, my role is going to share with you a little bit of what we've done thus far and how you can help us complete the process. So the first step in what our work has been setting up the values that are going to guide our work. We wanted to make sure that just as you are, we are a diverse group of individuals, and we want to make sure that we are able to work together in the most coherent way. And so we've come up with some values that I'd like to share with you, because it's important that you also think of these values when you're sharing your ideas with us today. One of the most important values, as you can imagine from what we've been discussing, is inclusiveness. We are here to make sure that everyone's voice is heard, all residents, immigrants and residents of Pittsburgh, everybody. So even though we have a strategy to put forth in terms of bettering our communities for immigrants, the role is to make sure that we make a cohesive recommendation that includes and takes part everyone's ideas, including the residents of Pittsburgh. Another important value of this, of course, leading from that, is respect. We have made sure that our ideas come up and we share them, and it's a large group and it's ongoing. But one of the most important things is that we respect. We're a diverse group, so we all have different ideas and they come from different places, and we have to respect everyone's idea and understand that everyone's idea brings value to it. Finally, what's our common purpose? And that leads to the next thing. We have come up with some shared vision that we think is going to create the framework and the end goal for what the advisory committee is doing, and should be what we want to make sure you keep in mind when you're sharing your ideas. So let me share with you some of the value. Some of those visions that we have. So the vision is for Pittsburgh, and it's to create a city that recognizes the value of all immigrants. A city where immigrants play an active role, both in government, in the workforce, and in the neighborhoods. A city that has culturally competent people who value diversity and embrace it. A city that provides accessible services to all of its residents, be it through transportation and education, in communications, and in any and all services. A city that provides a wide variety of cultural opportunities, and in so doing can become a model for all cities. So again, a city that is inclusive, that is for all residents. So with these values in mind, we understand that has to result in a cultural shift, right? We have to make sure that we're not just providing services outgoing to immigrants, but we're also recognizing that our city has to go through a cultural shift. With that in mind then, we have created a framework to work from. We call them our buckets. And what we do is, and what we've been doing is really, it's a way of organizing our ideas. It's been helpful for us, and we're sharing it with you because I think it's important that when you're thinking of the ideas you're going to share with us, they may fall within some of these buckets. Again, the purpose of today is to get your input. The value of today is going to be your input. So we have started. This is just a starting point. And you will see behind your agenda, you'll see those same 5 areas and some of the ideas that we have already come up with for those. But that's starting point. We're looking to see what you can add to those buckets. So just to share with you what we've thought about in terms of these buckets, in terms of services and resources, language accessibility is an important one. It is not just making language materials accessible to people who speak different languages, but also people who come with different literacy needs. So we have to make sure that we speak to that. We also have to recognize that there are laws and requirements out there that people receive support in language services and they're not receiving it. So there's a goal to make sure that those laws and regulations are enforced. In terms of education, we see this as a two-way street. It's not just education helping immigrants, obviously providing things such as English as a second language, but it's also going to be educating the community. Again, going back to our values about educating people to understand what immigrants bring and the good value that they bring to the city. In terms of government and policy, we are looking to create an office in the city that would serve as a central point for events, leadership in terms of the various organizations, because there are many organizations that serve immigrants, but provide some type of leadership in that role, and also make sure that it takes the work we do and the recommendations we provide one step forward, beyond just recommendations, that it has some type of ongoing basis. Jobs and opportunities, helping to prepare immigrants and develop professional development skills to assist them in searching for jobs. It's important, we know, and we all know this, we know that Pittsburgh educates a lot of foreign immigrants, but many of them can't stay because either the opportunities are not here or they are not prepared to seek out. There's not a connection there. So we need to work to make a connection between employers and those foreign students who want to stay. And of course, partnering with existing programs. There's a lot of existing programs out there, and we want to make sure that we leverage what's out there to create something that will help immigrants and make them feel more welcome. Finally, there's the sustainability portion of it, which brings everything together. And in terms of sustainability, I'm going to take you again full circle back to the cultural shift. That's where we're looking at having the city provide events, both existing events and creating new events that bring a cultural shift to the city, where we start to value different perspectives and different cultural backgrounds, and that can result in enjoyment for all residents, not just immigrants. And finally, sustainability means money, funding. Some of these programs are obviously going to need funding. So where is that going to come from? Fundraising. We really need to look beyond just recommendations in paper, but something that's going to be able to be sustainable. And that can only happen with funding. So that's our work so far. But again, these are just our starting point ideas. We are here to gather your ideas, because that is the value of today's meeting. It's you guys, not what we are bringing.
So thank you for coming, and we want is to invite you to join us in this movement. So tonight we're launching the citywide outreach campaign. You see the goals listed. Ask yourself, which of these goals can you help us with? Maybe 1, 2, 3. One of the most important ones is the one that we will gather information from you to make recommendations. You might have your own networks. We want to tap into those networks. How many immigrants do you know? Maybe 0, maybe 5. We want to tap into those networks. So everybody counts, and please join us on that project. To do that, we are going to make it easy for you. It's a website, and the system is online. These are for Pittsburgh-born, US-born citizens, as well as for non-US-born citizens. It's in English right now, but more language versions are coming in Spanish and Nepalese and other languages. So if you guys speak any of those languages, we will invite you to help us out on that. And we need your help in reaching the community. We're thinking about churches, we're thinking about universities, hospitals, conferences you might attend to be part of this movement. Finally, we need your access to your network, social media, and to create a plan to best reach your network. So please, you will have on your chairs this yellow form, and we will need is, if possible, to get excited and fill out the forms. This is just the first step. We have stations around this room and the next that they can help you out with some questions, and we'll be around as well for some more questions.
Thank you, Brent. I'm Pat Clark with Jackson Clark Partners. My firm, Jackson Clark Partners, has been fortunate enough to work with the Welcoming Pittsburgh Advisory Council and with the Mayor's Office to help put this initiative together. And I'm just going to make sure that I get you charged up and ready to roll to help us in connecting with as many folks and hearing from as broad an audience as possible of folks who were born here in Pittsburgh in the United States and immigrants who were born outside of the United States. So what we can do next is, oh, do you have the clicker ready? One back. There we go. All right, so what do we do next? This is about input and helping us to make sure that we connect with that broad network, the community that you connect with, and to make sure that we have the best strategy to do that. So Brent talked a little while ago about the yellow form. I want to make sure that everybody who walks out of here who has 7 people, 2 people, 75 folks that can give us that input knows about welcomingpittsburgh.com and the surveys that we have available. So please make sure that you fill out the yellow form. You can return it to station number 2 back there, or you can return it to the front desk there where you signed in. What I'm going to first point out in terms of input is station 1 here. This is the list of those 5 bucket areas that Ada Maria spoke of. We want to get your input. We have Post-its there, we have Sharpies. We want you to take a look at each of these areas, see what the Advisory Council has initially thought of in terms of key goals and focus areas, and make sure that we get your specific input on it. Good or bad, what we're missing, anything we need to hear. The second area that we'll want your help with is the yellow forms, I think, are going to be our best means of tapping into a broad range of folks, but frankly, not everybody in the immigrant community or others can be reached readily through an English language email survey. So if you have special needs, if you have what we need to go one step beyond to connect with in terms of a meeting, an organization, a community, I'll invite you to come back to station number 2, just at the back of the room there between us and the photo area, because that's where we're going to be able to fill out a pink form with you that will help us put together a custom plan with you to reach out to your constituencies and your networks. The third area I referenced earlier, Larry Ripple. Mr. Ripple, thank you so much, as always, for documenting. We have the opportunity to get your photo captured, but also to have you tell us a little bit about your own perspective in the Welcome Neighbor videos that we're doing back there. So see Larry and his team, and they'll be able to get you on video, giving us your 2 cents worth that way. We also have out front, thanks to the Carnegie Library and their good staff, we have a resource table out there where our folks from the Carnegie Library system are making sure that you have all the information that we have available, so feel free to stop in out there. And lastly, we also have a Color Me Pittsburgh exhibition that we're partnering on, and we'd like to get your input that way. But more than anything, make sure that while you're here, we hear what you have to say up here on Station 1, and that we have the ability to partner with you, to contact your networks, and get as many people as possible to participate in our Welcoming Pittsburgh surveys. And with that, I will also say, look for anybody with a yellow badge if you have questions. It's our advisory council, some of the folks and staff for Jackson Clark Partners, and we will be glad to provide you any assistance and support that we can here tonight. Thanks so much, everyone, for being here.